Hi and welcome to this week's edition of Bitrix24 Live. My name is Andy and I'm the support manager here at Interface. We are gold partners of Bitrix24 and we have this session every Thursday at 10 AM Eastern Time. The purpose of the session is solely to answer any questions that you may have with regards to Bitrix. So if you're looking at using Bitrix or you have been using Bitrix for a long time but you may be having some issues in different places within Bitrix, then I can try and help you out and show you live on screen the answer to those questions. So I will have a cloud product and an on-premise product to show you today. So if you do have any questions on either, please do ask as we go along and I can show you the answers to those questions. So a little bit about who we are. I mentioned that we are gold partners of Bitrix24. We have an office in the US, in the UK and in the UAE. And we offer a whole range of different services from pre-sale support. So if you're just looking into buying Bitrix and you wanted to make sure it's a good fit for your business, then we can offer online demonstrations to show you the different features. So please do get in touch with us if that's the case. We also offer licensing. We offer implementation support. So if you're looking at implementing Bitrix, if you already have it, maybe into your business or a different area of your business, then we can certainly assist with that. And then finally, we offer premium support. So if you've got any issues with Bitrix or you need help, then we offer ticketing support and also telephone support too. So we offer the full range of different services for Bitrix24. So if you do have questions throughout this session, that's all it is going to be focused on. So it doesn't matter what questions you have with regards to any of the different areas on Bitrix, I can answer them. I can only go on as long as we keep getting the questions in. We do have some that have come through during the week. And if any questions do come to you during the week, please do send them over to sales@interface.com, and we usually start each session off with those questions. So some have come in already. One of the first questions that we've got is referring to booking absence on Bitrix. So a couple of questions related to absence did come in this week, and just to point out that whether you're on the cloud product or the on-premise product, then Bitrix does come with a pre-installed absence request workflow. So you do need to be on a paid version of Bitrix for this. There are no workflows on the free account. But you'll be able to see in a moment the benefits of having this workflow on your system is going to provide. So if we click on our workflows here to start off with in the left-hand menu, and let's just make sure that the workflows are activated. So we come into here, into workflows in the activity stream. If you don't see anything on this page, simply click on workflows directory and you can install them all with a click of a button. But what you should do when it does come installed, you will have the leave approval process. So let's just have a look first of all at how a user, so a normal user on the system, would request leave. Click on More in the activity stream, click on Workflows, and then you'll be able to see the existing workflows available to you. So if I click on Leave Approval, we get presented with a little bit of a description and start end date, which I want to book a vacation for, and then maybe the different types of absence that you can have, and also the reason for leave and any documents that you want to include on this request. So if I want to, let's say, I'm not going on a holiday anytime soon with this COVID, but let's just go and hope for the best for September the 21st through to September the 25th. So I want the week beginning September the 21st off. I want to book annual leave, and then we'll say vacation. I can upload a document if I want to. In this case, I'm not going to. It's an optional field. Click on send, and then what that does is it triggers a workflow off. You can see on my activity stream who your request has gone to. Now, in the case of this demonstration, it's going to myself, so I can show you who's going to approve it. But in theory, what you can do, you can send that to a supervisor quite easily in Bitrix. So as long as you've got your company structure set up inside Bitrix, it can go to a supervisor. It can go to a fixed member of the HR team. And what they will receive is simply a request from the user on the system. So it will show on their activity stream. It will also show in their pending workflows on the right hand side. So you can see this widget here. We have a two pending activity stream workflows. And I can click into there. What it will do is it will show me the request that I've just made. So if you can imagine the HR member who's doing this will have received a notification. They've got a new workflow. They can click on start, and then they can read the request, approve it, deny it, or delegate it. If you're going to deny it, then you can leave the reasons why you're declining it. And what that will do is that will then send it to the original requester, give them the reasons for why it's been declined, and then they can request again if needed. However, if it's going to be approved, what will happen, click on approve here. You can see my requester has been given a notification, and yep, your leave has been approved, the dates that I submitted, absence type, reason for vacation. And then what that will also do is if I click into time and reports, if I just fly through to September here, you can actually see it's been added to the absence chart for my request on there. So that is how you get it added to the absence chart. And what I actually added into my activity, into my absence workflow, is also adding a calendar entry, because I want it on my personal calendar too. So what I can do, again, let's just flash forward to September, scroll down, and you can see here it's now added on a leave, on annual leave, and then the type of annual leave. You can edit that to however you wish. So I submitted my leave, it got approved, it added an entry into the absence chart, and it added an entry into my personal calendar. You can have it enter onto your company calendar. You could even create a new calendar inside Bitrix by clicking on calendars, click on add, click on create calendar. You can actually call it an absence calendar if you wanted to, and you could use the workflow to add the entry to that, so you know in a calendar view everybody that's currently absent. One thing to point out is it is recommended that you always add it to the absence chart, because if you're absent and it's on the absence chart, then it brings in other areas. So if you're trying to create a task for somebody that is marked as absent on the absence chart, it will have a little palm tree next to their name, and it will actually say that that user is away until September the 28th in my case. So it is quite useful to definitely add it to the absence chart. So let's just have a look briefly, just to finish this question off, about the workflow that sits behind the absence request. So if we go into workflows and activity stream, leave approval, we can see all the entries that have been requested on here. In the actions, we can add any new fields in here. So you saw that I had a start date, end date, and absence type. Those are all visible under the actions and customized fields. So you can see there. But I think the important part to look at this is the configure workflows area. So in here, you can click on leave approval. And then this is our simplified leave approval process. So what we're doing in here, let me just explain, is we're updating the form gets submitted. We start at the start point here. We then update the status to not approved because it's neither approved or declined at this stage. There is a question that's just come through. I want to add a field to the workflow form that shows the company structure. How do I do that? I'll be able to show you that in a moment, just after I finish this process. So I'll be able to show you that. And on here, we have select supervisor. So this is quite an important block if you want your leave request to be approved by a supervisor of whoever is submitting their leave. So that block here, select supervisor, is actually getting pulled from the employee information. So that is all that block is. We've just renamed it in here. And what that looks at is, it looks at the type is going to be the supervisor. So that's the type of person we want to find. And who do we want to find the supervisor for? We want to find the supervisor for the person that submitted their leave request. So if I just show you how that is accessible, if I just click on the three dots to the right hand side here, and then what we can do, element fields. Element fields are everything that's associated to the form that you submit. So if I click on element fields, we can pull created by. So this is the person that's requested the leave. What we want to do is find the immediate supervisor of the person who's submitting. If they don't have a supervisor, we can always use a backup user. So you might want to send it to HR. So that's the supervisor there. Then what we need to do is just use that person who we've selected within here. So at the moment, it's going to be the supervisor for the person who's created it. Now, if I go into the approval block that's in here, then we can go in and we can remove approving voters and instead click on the three dots in here. And we want to click on additional results and use the select supervisor action block. And what we want to do is use the selected employee. That will therefore mean that the supervisor of whoever is submitting this process will be sent the approval. Then if we follow it down, follows quite straightforward from there. If it gets declined, we set the status to rejected. If we gets approved, we set the status to approved. We then run a check to see whether it's been approved or declined. If it's been declined, we send a notification to the requester. If it's been approved, we send a notification to the requester to say it's been approved. We check the type of leave, then add it to the absence chart. So we use the block for absence chart here. So we click on interactive settings and absence chart. And then finally, we added that calendar event on the user's calendar. You can add a calendar event for a user. You can add a calendar event for a work group or the company calendar. It's completely up to you. So that's a simple process. I can always send you that if you need it. It's available on the cloud and the on-premise. I've simplified the version that it comes with Bitrix. I think this is a little bit easier to follow, but please do send me a message if you want this. I can always email it you across because you can export these, and it's available. This is available on the cloud and on the on-premise version too. So that is the leave request. The question that came through: how do I add a field to the workflow form that shows the company structure? How can I add that? So absolutely. So if we go back to our absence request, click into customize fields, click on add field, and then all you need to do is link to employee. So if I want to use that, what I can do, let's just say I want to select my own approver. Click on save. And then in the activity stream, if we go back to click into here, click into workflow, leave approval, you can now see here, click on select, I can then select from the company structure. This is a good one, especially if you are wanting to use these workflows for other things. So we use a workflow for projects. And in here, so we create a project using this workflow. Click on Select Manager. I can select John Smith. Click on Designer. I can click Mark Hope. And then what we can do with that is then insert these people that we're selecting in this workflow and actually automatically add them to a work group, add them to a task as a responsible person. It's a great way of using these workflows to be able to add them in. But what if I want to select only the name of the department? Yeah, you can't do that. You can't. I don't know why you would want to do that. If you want to select the department, then you'd have to probably create a list with all the departmental names. Otherwise you can't do it. If you made that field as a multiple select, so instead of having it a singular select, you would be able to select all the departmental users, because you could just make it multiple instead of a singular add. But yeah, you can't choose the name of the department. You would have to have something that's similar to this, but instead of having multiple select, you would just need department, sales, marketing, and then you can run from that. You can't pull the names of the department on here. I've got another question that got asked about how to add an observer in the workflow. I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to with regards to these workflows. If you're referring to the kind of automation rules in the CRM and adding observers into leads or deals, that's a little bit of a different area. But yeah, I don't know what you mean by an observer in the workflow. If you want to grant people access to edit the workflow, you can do so in the access permissions. But yes, correct. So in the CRM. So yeah, I can answer that. I don't believe you can, in all honesty. But we can go to the CRM in a moment and have a look. But I have a feeling there isn't an action for adding an observer in the automation. I think we've finished on the workflows anyway for the absence request. Somebody just wanted a bit of a recap and a review on here. But let me just go to where you are referring to about adding an observer in the workflow. So in leads, for those of you that don't know, you can have observers. So if we click into here, there's an observer field. And the good thing about observers, for those of you that don't know, is that you might have people that you want to bring in on the lead. Maybe you've got your permissions set so you only see your own leads that you're responsible for. If you were to add an observer in here, then you would also grant access for them to be able to see this lead. So it actually adds a level of permissions that overrides the viewing your own personal leads if you have that permission structure in. But what the question is how do you add an observer in automatically using the automation rules? And the answer is you can't. There isn't an option to, or there hasn't been that I've checked recently. Somebody asked the same question, one of our customers, and there's no way of doing it. There could be a way of doing it. Well, there is a way of doing it if you've got the on-premise version, because for those of you that use the on-premise, you do have one additional feature in your business process tool. So if I click into Edit in Workflow Designer, then the on-premise version has PHP code here. It's something that's different to the cloud version. And what we can do here is add an observer into this particular process by using the API in here. So you can do it on the on-premise with a little bit of code. I would need to get that code I'm not a developer myself. I'd need to get that code, but it is possible on the on-premise. There are no other actions, unfortunately, that allow you to add an observer that I've seen recently, unless I scan down here and it just appears, but I don't think it does. We should definitely make the request to Bitrix. I think it's something that's missing. It would be very useful. It's not the first time that I've been asked about it. I think it would be pretty good. I've got a question going back to the workflows. How can I set permissions to the workflows to all employees, but not to a few specific departments? Yeah, absolutely. So you might not want those workflows to be available that we were in the activity stream to everybody. It's quite straightforward to set up. If I go into leave approval, for example, click into actions. Click on Change Workflow Preferences up at the top here, and then you'll have a tab at the top that says Access. What we can do, click on Departments. I clicked on the blue Add. Sorry if I'm going a little bit quick. Clicked on Departments, and then select from Structure. Maybe we don't want all the marketing team to see it. We just click on that. All marketing employees access denied, and then you could say all other visitors. You are going to need to pick and choose who you see. The problem is how Bitrix permissions work is that if you have a higher permission, you will always take the higher permission role than the lower permission role. So if I'm restricted in the CRM just to see my leads in one role, but in another role I'm given access to see all leads will always win. And it's a very similar scenario here. So hopefully that helps. But try it out. Try your permission structure. Try your permissions out within here. It's definitely good to restrict your workflows because you don't want everybody having to create new projects, for example, like the one I showed you a moment ago. Hi Donald. I have a question about contacts and customers. Is there a way making your contacts customers? Do you mean if you want to make a contact a customer? If you're referring to a customer as a company, I think that might be what you are referring to. If you mean customers as in companies, can you convert a contact into a company? It's a good question. Don't think you can do it as standard. What you could do. Maybe you just want to clarify before I just show you how to convert this Jane Green into a company. But if anybody ever did want to do that, I'll just quickly show you one possible way of doing it. If you go into your CRM settings, automation, business processes, if you go into add a contact business process, what you could do here, if you said convert to company and deselect this, so when added or when changed, and then what you could do is you could create a new company. So we got into the CRM block here, create new company, click on the gear icon, and it might be that we want to call the company the contact name and the last name. And then you can set all these different fields. So it might be that we want to use the contact email, might be want to use the contact phone, and you can set all the other fields in here. So we've got quite a lot of custom fields in our companies. But just as a very simple conversion, you could do that. And then if you wanted to, it's completely up to you, is you could then delete the contact automatically. So we'd create the company, then delete the contact. But let me just show you what that would do. So if I've created that convert to company here in our contacts, business processes. Now if I go to Jane Green, And now that manual workflow is accessible via the top right here, you can see that we have convert to company. If I click that, it will run the process. And now if I go into the companies, you should be able to see Jane Green. So Jane Green is now the company. It automatically pulled the fields in from what we had. We would probably need to, we didn't include a responsible person in our process, but we could change that. But you can see here we have company name. We did have the telephone number. I think we're hiding some on here, so you would just need to pick and choose whichever fields that you wanted to show. But that's how you would do it. Just use the manual process, so that would then be available in the top right hand corner. Run it and you can create whatever you want from that particular way. Got another question. How can I have an agent convert a lead into a deal and have a workflow send an email confirming an appointment date and time and assign the deal to a manager? So, I guess what you would have to do is ensure that you had some way of being able to pull in the appointment date. Because Bitrix, unless you're going to automatically set it, it's not going to know. So maybe one idea from this, if I just go... I think if I go to our cloud site, I think we might have some dates in these particular leads. And then in a lead, I'm not 100% sure if we've got any dates. You would need a field for a date. That's you need to put the date in, unless you want the automation to automatically calculate it. So if you click into here, let's see if we've got a date. We may have. No, we don't on here. So I can create one. Let's say move-in date. There we go. So move-in. So let's just call this appointment date. Appointment's going to be 22nd of May next week. What you would have to do is when you're on your conversion, you could then have an automation that books in a meeting. So you could click into here for your conversion, which is our completed lead. Click in here, book in a meeting, and I guess what you're going to have to do, in fact, you're going to have to do it slightly differently. You'll have to edit in the workflow designer, and you would have to use one of the blocks that we had in our... So we would use our calendar event here. So it's a little bit different. Click into here. We could specify that's going to be the responsible person. Calendar type would be user. We would say appointment. And you could book this into, we would book this into maybe you have an appointments calendar. You could do that within here. You would just have this set slightly differently. You would have that as calendar, and then you would have the ID of the calendar in here. That could be possible. But then it's this part that's important. So you need to pull in the move-in date, which is what we were using. Click in there, and then that will, once the lead converts, it will book it into the calendar, and then it will also, you could send a notification to a particular person. So I guess you need to work around that. This calendar event action block is definitely going to be more useful to you than the appointment meeting action block, because you can actually put the physical date in that's on the lead. And then you could pass that through to the deal, notify the manager, and so on. I've got a question with regards to back with the employees. Always employees permission win looks like, it will do that. So you would need to, instead of putting all employees, you would need to only grant access to the departments you want to grant access to, and put deny access to the other departments. So you have to do it that way. Pixel is not working on my Bitrix website. How do I fix that? You'll need to go in. You'll need to speak with Bitrix about that. I can't do any technical fixes or supports or any errors that you've got. So for those of you that don't know, if you do have a commercial package of Bitrix, you can go into your chat. If you type in support, click on Bitrix support, they can assist you on here. Alternatively, get in touch with us. We also offer support contracts in here. I'll put our contact details up at the end of this webinar. Can you please brief about the inventory system in the on-premise version? Inventory system. If you're referring to the CRM, that it essentially isn't an inventory system. The only inventory system is on the online store for products, but the actual CRM does not have one. You can create one, especially on the on-premise version, but yeah, there's nothing out of the box for inventory. I see. Thanks, Donald. I see what you're saying. Yeah, the customer is you're creating an order from. How do you convert that customer to a client? The two seem to be separate. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't actually know that. I'm not too clued up on the online store in Bitrix, but I know where you're referring to. You're referring to here. I don't think you can in terms of this. It might be possible. Let's have a quick check. In the actual order itself, it might be possible. Let's have a quick check. To create a CRM document, we can't do that. So maybe instead click into edit in the workflow designer and click into CRM, and potentially you could do it this way. So if an order gets placed and shipped, you wouldn't do that. You would create new contact in the CRM. So when you're progressing that order from your e-commerce aspect of Bitrix, you could use this edit in workflow designer, because if you edit in the workflow designer, you do get access to every action block on this right hand side. And then if we click on here, let's have a look what we've got. Here we go. Contact name. And this is going to be the contact name and last name that's associated to the order. So this could be the way to go once you're progressing your order through. Try that out. Try edit in the workflow designer on your automation for orders and create a contact. That will then take, you probably want to do it on your order completed, don't you? So then it will pass it through to the CRM. I would probably add a field in here. I don't think you do have customer source. So you could say your customer source in here would be your Bitrix24 online store. I don't think there is that source as standard, but you could easily add one in this custom field. So hopefully that helps. If you give that a try and let me know if that works for you. Is there a way to filter all records on leads, contacts, workflows on activity stream, etc. that belongs to a specific user group? Oh, I'm not 100% sure I know what you mean by that. Is there a way to filter all records on leads and contacts, workflows on activity stream? I think the only way you can, I'm not 100% sure on the question, but the only way you can filter, you can use the activity stream filter up here. We can filter workflows, but in terms of a specific user group, I think you can only have author, can't you? and then you could choose. You can't choose a particular department. You would have to be a person. So that's how you would filter workflows on your activity stream. Maybe if you can clarify the question a little bit more. Oh, you put it. So I can have users on different regions working only and see their own relevant data. So we've had this question a little bit in terms of the CRM. So for your workflows, definitely use the access permissions and put the relevant user group or department having access to them and the others not having access denied. In terms of CRM permissions, the best thing to do is set your company structure up. If I go to our on-prem again, this is available on the cloud and the on-prem. Go to employees, you'll see the company structure. Set your company up in the different regional offices. This is the only way to do it. So if you set your company structure up with regional offices, then you can then apply the access permissions on those departments. So let's go into the CRM settings, and then go into permissions, and then go into access permissions. And then this is where you assign all the permissions for the CRM. Click onto roles, add a new role, and then you can allow people to see personal and department. And if you've got your departments as regions, that would therefore mean that only people in that particular department will be able to see contacts, will be able to see their own companies and other people in their regions' companies, and so on and so forth. So you would go down and specify that. And then you could have a management level, maybe as in your company structure, maybe you would put personal department and sub-department. So you might have mini company structures under each branch, and you might want to put the manager at the top. But in the original case, personal department all the way through, maybe keep export as denied. If we call that regional as the role, click on save. I'd obviously continue all of that, but then you could say all employees should be assigned the regional permissions. And that would therefore mean that you only see the leads, deals, contacts, companies from that particular regional department. So if I'm in the UK, somebody in the US department would not be able to see the UK's leads, contacts, companies. And it's all the permissions in the CRM are based on who is responsible for the actual lead, or who is actually responsible for the deal, the contact, and the company. Because you can assign one responsible person per entity. So if you create a lead, it has one responsible person. If you convert it to a deal, the deal has one responsible person. And the same goes with contacts, companies, quotes, and invoices. So you can see contacts, Jane White. If Jane White was in the USA department and Mark Black was in the UK department, the UK department would not be able to see this contact because it's all about this person here. So it's quite a useful way of doing it. A lot of people do that because it basically creates a CRM that is divided up into different offices. The only other alternative, and it's a much more expensive alternative, is if you go to the Enterprise Edition. We've now developed a modular interface that separates the CRM on a division by division base for the enterprise. But that license, depending on how many users you've got, that license is quite a lot more expensive than the normal on-premise or the cloud version. So how to play around with the roles and the permissions in the CRM. Can you demonstrate how to use the individual performance report works in the CRM analytics? So if we go into here and click on employee and performance, let me just go into our cloud in here. So it's all based on so generally, most of the reporting in here is based on the deals. So especially employee performance and the sales aspect, and the employee dashboard is focusing on the deal value, because the deals in Bitrix are generally where the sales are won. Because if I was to, I can stay in here in the cloud version, but I can show you what I mean in the deals version. Your deals are where your sales are progressed, won, and there's a monetary value associated to them. So you can see here, if I just switch to our Kanban view, you can see that every stage of this particular pipeline has a monetary value associated to it. And that's the way you should be working inside Bitrix24 CRM. And what I mentioned earlier with regards to the responsible person, every deal will have a responsible person. So if I click into Graham Smith job 19, scroll down, I can see that Mark Black is responsible for this deal. I can see that the deal value is $20,000. And at the point of when you close out a deal and complete it, that is a converted sale, as that's when it's classified as Bitrix. So that's where these individual performance monitors come. So you can see in the last 30 days, Jack Smith has deal values of 800 that he's won. We don't have too much data in here, to be fair, but if we had multiple employees that had multiple deals, you would be able to see where you sit amongst the performance of individual performances compared to one another. So if I went in as Joe Smith and I'd won a deal at $1,000, then Joe Smith would be leading the way, essentially. And that's where it all also stems back to the, let me see where it is. It's relatively new, this. So if we go into, I think it might be on our activity dashboard. So yeah, we have it in here. But this also, not individual performance, we can also see in here based on the deals and things that people have won for a different reporting period. In this case, we have less than 2020 in here. But you can see if you win a deal, then it will get equated to your sales target. So you got 30,000, 50,000, and so on and so forth. They're really useful to do this. How to get the report by the end of the day to the supervisor of a particular department. So I'm not sure what you mean by report. I guess Bitrix does have reports. So you could submit a work report, and that will generally always go to the supervisor. If that's what you're referring to, you can go to time and reports, click into work time, and first establish if the work report is set for the user. So if John Smith, if I click on his little cog icon, you can see his daily report, do not show the form. So you need to make sure that's not selected. And you can make it not required, so it would pop up, or you can make it required. So that's the first thing you need to check the work reports are on. The second thing you need to do is go to work reports itself, click on the settings, and then next to the person, what you can do is select the report period. So you can set it to pop up at every day, every week, or every month. And what you can do is specify the time. So if I said every day, 4 p.m, the pop-up form is going to appear and I can submit my report. It would then go to a supervisor. If I wanted to do it every week, you can choose whether it's going to be every Friday at 5 p.m. maybe. And then that would then be popping up every Friday at 5 p.m. It pops up in a very similar fashion to what that looks like on the screen now. they will just fill it out and then it would get sent to the supervisor. So it just allows them to tell them what is being done for that given day. Where can I get information about the module to let you separate the CRM for enterprise solutions? I'll put our contact details up at the end, or you can email me, andy@intraface.com. I'll give out the contact details at the end of this session. But yeah, absolutely. We've been working on that for quite a long time because we do have quite a few enterprise clients, and yeah, it's a fantastic tool because it just gives you multiple divisions. So you can have you can essentially have a division of Bitrix for each region that you're in, and it's essentially a individual Bitrix system for each region. So you would have your own workflows, you would have your own CRM, you would have your own work groups, you would have your own tasks. But what the enterprise also gives you is the ability to have a global system that you can post out news to everybody. So it's a really powerful system. It's the highest end of what you can get for Bitrix. Is there a way to translate the lead status label to show the current user's language? I guess we've worked with quite a lot of different customizations of Bitrix, and what you can do with regards to it is we've created a little language switcher and for one of our clients, and again, if you're interested, get in touch because we've already done this. There might be a small charge for implementing it, but Bitrix, as I don't know if you were aware, comes in a range of different languages. So I mean, if I just Google that quickly, Bitrix24 languages, as long as the language pack exists, then so you can see here currently has Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, French, Italian, Polish, Turkish. There's quite a lot of different languages, so you can see them all in here. Let's click into it. So the whole range. So this is the language, and on the on-premise version you can install these language packs, converts all the text within the relevant one. And what we've done is we've made them, so let's just say the client needed 6 languages. We have a little flag switcher, and you can default it to whichever flag that you want to associate with the language, and it's a really, really powerful tool. So you can do that on the on-premise version. So yeah, get in touch. If a lead is converted to a deal and reassigned to a manager, does the final deal value convert amount still apply to the... That's a good question. At the point of conversion, I guess to get a definite answer, I don't want to tell you one thing and it be wrong, but let's just... so if this one is John Smith here, and I convert that, so that's 8,000. And then if I go in here, and this is Dev, so in fact, let's just do that one here that we've just done. And click on. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Let me just pull in. So, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right. So I can see the modified is 33 seconds ago. So currently $8,000. Now, if I go into our CRM analytics, click on sales and sales funnel. Sales funnel is conversion. And click on John Smith. I'm not sure why it's, unless I'm... Was it John Smith that I did it for? I'm probably going to run out of time here, but I would test it. I would assume that it would only go to the person who is responsible at the time. So if you convert it to John Smith, I'm not sure if that reporting is for a different pipeline. I think it might be. Let's go in here. Let's have a look. Let's give it a year. Yeah, I think I'd have to work it out, but you can see 60,599. Let's see if that changes. Let's test it out. So if I go to this one that I've changed, so 60,599. If I go in here to Mike, go back to analytics, and then clicking back into here. Yeah, so it goes down. It's gone down 8,000. I thought that might happen. So it gets stamped. Whatever you're searching for, if it gets changed after, then it would go down. So hopefully that answers your question. However, the next point is if you change the deal value, if you change the deal responsible, that's going to be okay for you, because leads and deals are two separate things, I would have thought. So you could see all the converted leads for a specific person for one salesperson, and then you could see the deals for another. So it would stay with the lead would close, convert, and then the deal would be closed out. Yeah, you want the lead gen group to call their list of leads, and then the closers to be notified when an appointment has been set for them to schedule in their workload. I mean, that's quite straightforward to do. The lead, you would make your lead gen group responsible for all the leads. Once they're happy and you want the closers to be notified, you drag it into convert if you wanted to. That would then drop it into a pipeline, maybe for a particular salesperson, and then they would be notified as soon as that, using the automation, and you could automatically book the appointment like what we looked at earlier. It's quite straightforward, and it's quite a common method of doing it. So yeah, you can get in touch with us if you need any assistance with setting it up. It's something that we can have a look into in a little bit more detail. Sometimes on these sessions it's a little bit hard to get your head around just on the spot, but what you've outlined is possible. One of the things that, again, something that we've worked on that you can do in Bitrix is sort of like have it auto-assign. It can auto-assign to a specific sales group. So if you've got a group of closers, for example, then and you want to spread your leads to the closers in an even way, so they go through, and then, like for example, at the end of the month have all received 50 closing deals. Bitrix can do that as well. So it's a little bit of a custom business process, but it is possible, and that's what Bitrix gives you. It gives you the ability to customize it a little bit more. So I don't think we've got any more questions that have come through. There have been quite a few good ones today. I'll just put our contact details up. Please do get in touch with us using either sales@intraface.com or drop me a message to andy@intraface.com, and we can help in any way. As I mentioned right at the start, for those of you that didn't join it right at the start, we are Intraface. We're gold partners of Bitrix24. So we offer services from pre-sale support. So if you're looking at Bitrix, making sure it's a right fit for your business, that's good. All the way through to implementation, installation. If you've got an on-premise, we can install it for you and assist with that, or you can host with ourselves. And we offer premium support, so ticketing, telephone, live chat support as well. So I do try and do these sessions every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It is generally an hour's worth of asking questions and trying to answer them as best as I can do. Sometimes if you do need a little bit more work on them, then you can send them in advance. So if you send them over in advance, then I can get the questions and do a little bit of research on them beforehand, and then start each session off with those questions like I did right at the beginning of this one. And if you do miss them, they are all recorded and put onto the Bitrix24 YouTube channel around about 2 to 3 hours after it finishes. So we have this session every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We also have a session on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern now, just while quite a lot of people are working remotely. We're offering two sessions a week just to help everyone out as much as they can on Bitrix. So I hope that's been useful for you. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll leave it there. Bye for now.